Says we're live. All right. I think we're good.
All right.
See if anybody hops on here. Don't usually get many people live on Facebook, but we get on YouTube, but we get a few live on Facebook. So
cool.
Handful.
Yeah, that buckle I finished up today was actually a product of your advertisement on Burning Daylight. Yeah,
I saw. That's awesome. I saw that Jen posted that too. That looks nice too.
Thank you.
Did you do that on your microscope, or is that all?
No, that's just all freehand. Yeah, free eyeballs.
I mean, free ball in that one.
Yeah,
it looked good. So I think I saw that they liked it, so that's good. It looked really, really nice.
Yeah, I like that engraved steel look with just the plain silver.
Yeah,
it looks good.
Yeah, it was simple, but it looked really nice. So
right.
We got a few people here. We're live with Tracy Morrison Custom Silverworks at Chelsea, Oklahoma. Proud sponsor of the show. I'm proud to have him on as a sponsor, friend of the show, and just a hell of a silversmith, hell of an engraver, Tracy. I've enjoyed watching put your work out. I've that I kept that horn cap and the money clip a little longer than I probably should have, but I liked. I'm not good at going to the mailbox more than anything, but I also kind of liked seeing the stuff. I was like, it's pretty cool that I get to give this kind of stuff away. It's been a pleasure looking, watching your work, your artwork.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And man, I like giving stuff away, and if it helps you out, that's a good deal because you put on a heck of a good show. So no problem.
Well,
man.
I appreciate that. I try to. I know I've said it multiple times on here, but as far as podcasts go, there's a lot of cowboy sort of podcasts. There's a lot of horse training stuff. There's a few like motivational speakers that they got cowboy in their title and whatnot. But I say this because I'm a working cowboy, and I know whether you call a feedlot cowboy or not, I'm gonna own the title just because I feel like I've been in it long enough. I can go ahead and just say, yeah, that's what I do.
You bet.
But regardless, I never really saw anything that was aimed at entertaining us guys on horseback or in the saddle shop or engraving or whatever the case may be. But the guys doing the cowboy work, whether there wasn't anything aimed towards them podcast wise, whether it be cowboy shit stories or the history of cowboy or just like on Fence Post Politics, the relevant topics of the day, or maybe not so relevant topics of the day, but put out there for the working guy. And that's what I try to do. And it's really humbling seeing the response from it. And I'm glad that people keep tuning in, and there's more and more people every day, it seems like, and which is fucking wild. Yeah. To tell you the truth, it's just wild to see it.
I think you got to be a working cowboy to get it. We kind of got our own sense of humor and our own way we put things out there. And if you ain't done it, you don't get it. So you're doing a heck of a good job.
Well, I sure appreciate it. And the main reason we went live here is Tracy just finished up a set of hooks that we're gonna raffle off, and we got some proceeds going to a good cause. And I've mentioned this before in the past, but I'd like to set up a little foundation that's more just working cowboy specific, in the future. And I think we're going to try to do that some more with these raffles. But Tracy's Tracy's been kind enough to donate these, and so we're gonna donate a portion of the profits to or the proceeds, I guess, to Farmer Veteran Coalition. And man, these things are sharp, engraved rowels and everything.
Yeah, I spend a little bit of time on them. You know, I don't want to put something out there that I wouldn't wear. You know, pretty proud of them. Here's one side of them. I don't know if probably can't see them as good. The lighting ain't real good in here.
A little bit, but
they got a good ring to them. You know, scroll work. I engraved all that underneath the microscope and stuff. Put the shading in, and then on the other side of the band, just got that nice classic Western bright cut on there. So yeah, they're pretty nice. Yeah. I'd wear them. So I think anybody ought to be proud, you know. $50 a spot.
Yeah.
You can't go to the feed store and buy them for $50, you know. So
no, nothing that nice. That's for dang sure. Yeah. And it's you know, I guess for, you know, because we got plenty of great basin types out here. So they're a classic kind of Texas style spur. But it's you know, they ring nice. They ain't got any jingle bobs, but you don't need them with a ring that good on the rowels. So it's they'll hear you coming.
You bet. You know, and if it helps out the veterans, that's a good deal. I'm a veteran myself, so you know, anything I could do to help out my brothers, you know, shoot, yeah.
Hell yeah. What branch were you?
I was in the Air Force.
Air Force, right on. I got a brother-in-law still in the Air Force, nice. So that's awesome. My eyes are, well, I mean, they were too shitty for the Marines, so they damn sure ain't gonna take me in the Air Force.
Yeah, my whole family, my grandpa, he was a Marine in World War II. He actually was on the cleanup crew after they bombed Hiroshima. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, if we could go deep dive on that conspiracy with the bombing deal too, but we'll save that for another day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've heard, you know, like there was one conspiracy that I heard, and this was from a pretty intelligent fella, and then he kind of deep in. I for him there for a little while, so he popped up on like this, not YouTube, but like Rumble and like platforms, and he was spouting a whole lot of stuff. His conspiracy theory is that nuclear. I'm not sure how much I buy into that, but he was making some good points. That's always the problem with those conspiracy theories. I don't know if I agree with him, but they're making some good points.
Well, they're just spoiler alerts. That's all they are.
I think I lost you there.
In my back.
Might have been on my end.
I see you. You're kind of frozen time. There you go.
There we are. All right. Well, we were talking conspiracies, and the internet didn't like that. So anyway, like I said, I don't agree. I'm all sold, but they make some good points.
Yes, they do.
So yeah, that's well, that might be a topic for another day. We'll see if we get to it tonight. Well, you never know where we go, but I wanted since you've been kind enough to sponsor the show and donate some stuff, so like let's talk about what you got going on. How'd you get into to building the cowboy shit? I got, you know, I guess maker, engraver, that's kind of what your title would be, or your category.
Yeah. You know, I worked on these ranches and stuff around here for I don't know, probably 20 plus years, and just plugged along.
Yeah.
And I was about 45, and I was working on this outfit. And if you've ever been to Oklahoma, they had a bunch. They used to strip mine this around here, and they had to go back and fill it all in what they call reclaim land. Well, hell, there ain't but about a half inch of topsoil. The rest of it's rocks, you know, and then there's brush everywhere. And we was doing a gather, and there's this old cow. She's shaded up and brushed up, and we finally found her. She come busting out of there, and I blew to her and roped her. Well, I had a pretty bad horse wreck and end up cracking my arm in two.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad breaking. I was 45, like I said. Shoot, man, that took a long time to heal. And
I bet so.
I'm like, I better hang my spurs up and go to town and get a job with a pension, or I ain't gonna make it. Well, after a couple of years of that, I missed all my cowboy buddies and kind of not being in the loop anymore. So I thought, I'll just start building. I'd like to start building stuff for them, that way I can at least visit and keep in contact and everything. And got in contact with a guy just down the road from me, Kenny Stidley and Leon Hughes. They're pretty good makers and heck of good guys. And they kind of pointed me in the right direction, gave me a few tips and tricks, and off I went. So
hell yeah,
here I am, trial.
There you go. Well, how long you been at it? Just building the stuff.
The first piece I ever built was for my dad's birthday, and it'll be 4 years in January. So not quite 4 years.
Oh no shit. So you're still like pretty new to the game.
I'm still a
you've
cherry
come a
boy.
long ways, man.
Well, thank you.
You've come a long ways, because your engraving really looks nice. And so I would assume those guys down the road there from you are kind of where you, I won't say copycat your style, but where like that's like, I'm sure it's a huge influence on you.
Oh, well, yeah, Leon, he's a real good engraver. I think he's 86 years old now. He don't use a microscope or nothing. I think he does it all by feel anymore, And then Kenny, he always emphasizes, if you're going to do something, make it right and make it clean. So,
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Well, and there's and the way I say that, because you always hear like especially in music, every country artist, wanted to be Hank Williams in the, in the 70s. Every country artist wanted to be Hank Williams. So they copycat his style a little bit, but then that turns into, that, and Bob Wills and whatnot. They people steal from one genre or scene to build their own, and like had Merle Haggard, he was that wasn't Bob Wills, but son of a, anyway, he started that whole Bakersfield scene, which
right.
Merle Haggard came out of there, and then Dwight Yoakam, and it was just, it was a whole different scene than, just like the outlaw country guys did, and it was always, but they always had influences, and that they'd rob a little bit of sound from here and then add their own stuff, and I think any good artist, there's very few of those artists that like just spawned something new, and even a guy like Hendrix, who just completely redefined how you played guitar, took a ton of influence from the blues. And
Robert Johnson, I mean, any blues riff you hear comes directly from him, so
yeah, and I'm sure he heard it from someone else before him, or put a spin on it to create that. And so like you have to go way back to find like the original artist, right. But there's a handful here and there that sure enough just spawn an entire new way of art. But it's really cool, like especially being where I'm from and where I'm at now, just seeing that like I guess the clash of cultures, but just the two distinct styles within cowboy, and there's offshoots everywhere, but there's the California and the Texas style, and they're like the way the spurs and the bits go, they're polar opposites, but they're still all unique and beautiful, the craftsmanship in their own way, and it's just really neat to look at those differences.
Yeah, I'm kind of a crossbreed on that. I like Texas top style spurs, I mean, that's what I
Mm-hmm.
like. But I like those California style bridle bits, and I just got through building a La Crucis bit, and I just
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the heck out of that because there's a lot that goes into that. And boy, you can sure make them shine. They're nice. And
Oh yeah.
I like doing those type of bits, but I like doing Texas style spurs. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think the Texas style spurs they lead more into like to have a little more bling on them where
Yeah.
you can hang a lot of silver on a spade bit where it's not
Yes, you
on
can.
your typical shanked like a cavalry style shank or something like
You
that
bet.
on a grazer bit. There's not near as much room for silver
Right.
on that bad boy, but where a spade you can really hang a lot of silver and engrave it in there,
You
and it's kind of
can.
the same way with the Texas style spurs versus the California. California is usually and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually a solid piece of steel, just one piece of steel that makes the whole band and shank.
Yeah, or them shanks are. I've studied that a little bit, and them shanks on them California styles. Sometimes they had like they drill a hole through the band and already have that shank cut out, and they put it through there and rivet it almost in there.
Oh, I
It,
see.
it's
I
a
see.
I've never done that. That's just what I've read up on and stuff. But yeah, a lot of them are one
Mhm.
piece also.
Yeah, and so but they're usually not as wide of a band, and
No,
I prefer on the Spurs. I prefer the Texas style. I like the look of a really cool spade bit or like a half reader or a Mona Lisa or something like that. But to have that you know vaquero style cheek pattern on it is
yep,
always.
yeah.
I mean, that's where you make them shine is when you have all that surface area to put silver on and do your
And I love it.
engraving and
I
do your
love it.
actual artwork. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really liked that little California style bit that you made though. That one was sharp. It was clean. It was smooth. It was also it had that cowpuncher style to it because even though there was a lot of engraving, it was just simple. Like it'd been a good using bit, like a really,
Yeah,
I mean, real flashy using bit, but it had that feel of a using bit. It didn't seem like a bridle horse type, going to town type bit.
right. Well, and that's just it. I like all that fancy stuff, but I can't get over. I like that classic Western bright cut
Mm,
engraving. You know, and that's probably how I make all my stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, that other style engraving is just awesome, but for me, for bits and spurs, that classic bright cut is where it's at because that's just where it's at for me, and it's using stuff, and that's what I make. I make stuff to use.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. So I just it's once you start diving into all that and you see everybody's different style and it you know it's really cool to see how all that all comes together and like I contrast your stuff with Matt Wilson a lot because where you're more of like a technical old school style engraver and Matt Wilson's just like a wild child where anything that comes to his mind, he's like, I'll put that on a bit. He's just
Right,
like,
right.
and it's cool to see all those styles and I love watching them all and
Oh yeah.
seeing just because it's all a different style of artwork, and once you get to like once you look at it like a piece of art because it is and then you start to think about all the different personalities and whatnot and environments that people
That's
come up in that influence that type of art.
Oh yeah, yeah. Some of those guys they're outrageous. Their imagination is
Yeah.
just crazy. And I love looking at that
Hmm.
stuff. I admire so many people that do this, because like everybody's got, like you said, their own personalities, their own twist, their own ideas. I love it. I don't know. But yeah, I just kind of picked it up, watched a lot of videos. I haven't ever
Yeah.
taken a class.
YouTube's, yeah. Well, anymore, if you know a good maker and you got YouTube, like that's about the best schooling you can get is go learn from somebody in person that and you're not, like that way you can kind of learn on your own speed. And then if you got any questions about something else, just give it a little search on YouTube, and there's probably 500 videos about something similar.
Oh yeah, and it can be discouraging too, because you look at some of these guys on there, and that you really want to be like, and man, to get there, at times you just want to throw all your crap down and walk off, because you're like, oh man, I'll never be able to do that. But you got to keep plugging, shoot.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way on this podcast deal. There's times where, like, I think I covered a subject pretty good, and made a good podcast of it, and then I'll listen to somebody else that did the same subject, and I was like, God damn it, I had that joke, same joke, and I didn't, I just didn't pull the trigger on it or something, or I forgot to say it, and I was like, man, they just blew mine right out of the water, and I was feeling really good about that episode, but it's it's all part of the game. You learn, you live and you learn.
You bet. And
what?
If
you're not. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's pretty neat about this whole deal, it's not like you'd think, an engraver kind of keeping all his tricks and tips, close to his chest. Man, everybody that I've met so far is happy to share ideas and how they get by doing stuff and what works best for them. So it's been a good deal. I'm never scared to ask a question, and everybody's free to give me an answer. So it's been pretty nice, really has.
Well, that's awesome, and that's one of the things I love about the cowboy world in general is even those crotchety old farts that they seem like they're pretty unapproachable. If you ask them a question and they can tell you're being you're sure enough asking a question and not being a smart ass or something, they'll typically, and they might put it in a smart ass way, but they'll give you plenty of good advice. They're most of the time they're not ones to hold it back. But of course, when you're working in a cowboy crew, if you're not telling the guy that's the weak link how to get better, well, he ain't gonna get better. One of these days, that's gonna bite you in the ass, and you're gonna get hurt or something. So it just,
I kind of cut my teeth around those them old crotchety types, and they damn sure eat your ass, but they damn sure, after all the work was done, they'd come and say, hey, if you would have tried this, you might got by a little bit better, and they damn sure tell you after everything's done and pull you off to the side saying, you're messing up. You need to watch what you're doing, pay attention,
Yeah. Because hell, even the boss man will get screamed at in the heat of the battle. I mean, that's one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's fair game when you're working cattle. Wives, dogs, bosses, presidents, it don't matter. if you're there working cattle and shit ain't going the right way, you're in the line of sight. You're in the line of fire. And everybody just kind of knows that.
Oh yeah.
Or they should. And if they don't, they find out. If they don't know, they find out real quick.
Yeah, if you got thin skin, you're in the wrong game.
Yeah, that's for sure. But it's funny. It's amazing how many thin-skinned folks skate by, and still, like I've met several either in higher positions or just been around forever that are just the most non-joke taking, thin-skinned sons of bitches I've ever met in my life. And it's like, man, I thought a sense of humor was almost required to be a cowboy, but it makes you wonder sometimes.
Well, if you notice, most of those types are, like you said, they're in the higher positions. And I don't know how that works, but it seems like it's always been like that and always will be like that.
Always does. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I was talking to Matt Wilson today, and I guess it was the guy I work with, and we were talking about like Monty Walsh said, he's a numbers guy.
Yeah.
It's just certain mentality where, like, and I know you got to have a good mind for numbers if you're gonna, be in a management type role. But man, there's also there's if you're gonna be in, I was talking with Scott the other day, like when you get to be that cow boss or higher position, you gotta somehow balance numbers with the cattle and horses and the people, and that's it's a fine line to walk on. I don't know if anybody's I'm not sure if anybody's ever perfected it, but it's a fine line, and it's almost an art form. Yeah, it's almost an art form in and of itself.
Well, and like you were saying, once you get in that position, you're no longer one of the guys, and that's what would just suck. And if you can be one of the guys, well, you're the rare deal, because that's usually not how it works. Once you become the cow boss,
right,
you're the cow boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just and no matter how bad you want to be, and you can't you can play that way with the guys for a long time, and you can almost you can go that way until you get fired when you at some point, you're still, even though you're one of the guys to the crew, you're not to the upper management. You're
exactly.
just not. And or you get that promotion, and even though the upper management might see you as one of the guys don't see you as one of the guys.
Yeah,
anymore.
you got
and
that
so
right.
There's
that right. Hey, let me go get a charger. I'm gonna.
But there's all right. As I was saying, there's today I was saying, I was giving an example when I was at the cactus yard, and how we did our time sync AI. So for anybody that's not familiar with that, time sync artificial insemination, usually you put a cedar, which is for the layman out there, be an IUD, gives off a progesterone dose every day or constantly, and you leave that in for a week, and then you'd give them another set of shots, and it's about a 10-day process to synchronize your entire herd and then breed them. And the way we did it was we'd put a cedar, leave it in for a week later we'd pull it, and we'd give them a shot of luteolise, which is prostaglandin F2 alpha, which basically would terminate a pregnancy. So the progesterone is what the cedar is, that it mimics a pregnancy. You pull the cedar, you give them a shot of luteolise, which would be the hormone that would terminate a pregnancy. And then 3 days later, you give them another shot, or you give them a shot of GnRH, which would help flush the ovary, and then you breed them right after you give them that shot. So shot, breed. And you could, like, a good ballpark number to get bred on a deal like that, because you're breeding all your heifers at once, is 50%. And the way we did it there at Cactus, I don't remember if I signed an NDA or not, but whatever. They can sue me if they so choose. But during that 3-day period, we'd give a shot of luteolise, and then 3 days later is when we'd breed them. In that 3-day period, there was some study that showed that if you kept the calves off of those cows, you would gain like 1 to 2%, I believe, on your breeding percentage. So say you got 100 head, and you're shooting for 50%. You get 50 of them bred, and then you get an extra 2 out of 100. So you go from 50 to 52 head. And in that 3-day period, you're temporary weaning those calves. So you got balling calves everywhere. You got balling cows everywhere. And I mean, it was bad enough. Those cows were balling hard enough and pushing hard enough. We'd have to go every pen that was temporary weaning. We'd go and take all the gate rods out of the pen and just chain the gates because they'd try to jump. And sure enough, we had a couple of them that speared themselves in the brisket, or they'd get that gate rod hung in their flank, and we'd end up having to put them down. And so out of 100 head, say you have two heifers that or cows that jump the fence and die or get hung up on the fence. Well, you just canceled out your 2% advantage on that temporary weaning, and you cost yourself 2 heifers. So, and say this was a first calf heifer that got bred back, or was getting bred back. So you lost yourself about 10 calves to gain 2, or 20 calves to gain 2. But the numbers say you get 2% better, conception percentage. So that's what the corporate bigwigs go with, instead of the unintended effects or consequences.
I worked on it was half commercial, half purebred outfit, and we got into all that AI and nonsense. And I don't know. I just don't know about that. I'm kind of like, let the bulls know more about it than we do. Let them just do it, But I think putting a paper to it, like you said, it could be detrimental to your whole deal if things just don't go perfect. It could be a train wreck.
Well, it can be, and I'm not opposed to AI at all. I think it's a good tool, and we had good success with it at times. But there's also that part where during those 3 days, you have your entire cowboy crew, especially in a confined cow-calf deal. You got your entire cowboy crew rounding up calves that are squirting through the bunk, and you're trying to keep them, keep everything where it's supposed to go. And I don't know if we lost any calves or any more than normal from that, but they were stressed all to shit. And I know that as soon as we got those calves back on them, the cows back on the calves, we about 2 days afterwards, we were doctoring just heavy doctoring. And you're looking at all this, and like you're doing this for a 1 to 1.5% higher conception rate. Like it just, I'm a dumb cowhand, but if I put that down on paper, it doesn't pencil out right. So how are you at the higher levels not seeing this pencil out, especially when you're getting direct input from guys like me on the ground saying, hey, this just makes for a longer day. It makes that we're going to have to hire more help, because not only are we got all the cows to run through the chute, but we spend 3 days trying to keep calves back in where they're supposed to go and keep them organized, when on the day of breeding we could have got a couple extra hands and helped strip the calves off before we sent the cows to the barn. And the rest of the 70 hours there's no issue whatsoever.
Right.
Instead of working all 72 hours of that 72-hour period trying to keep shit straight and failing at every turn.
Yeah.
Why don't we spend a little extra for 2 hours out of that 72 hours and things go smooth, and just forget that extra 2 head that you might
get. Damn it, Matt, we ain't got time on every hunter. We got to get busy, we ain't got time for that.
Right. We're burning daylight and shit. Yeah. Yeah, don't listen to the guys on the ground that see how it's happening. But you know, it is that's always been a struggle from the cowboy to the, you know, whether it be the cow boss or the range boss or whatever, you
You
know, and then
bet.
on up to the owner. Every cowhand thinks they can run it better, and not many of them actually want to give it a try
No.
when it comes down to it. Nobody really wants to try. They just I just as soon bitch about it
Well,
and know
yeah,
that I'm
that's what
right
I'm
in my
best
head.
at.
I'm not well, yeah. I mean, I can tell you 7 ways from Sunday how I can do this better than you, but I don't want to actually have to prove it.
Yeah,
That takes actually that takes some unnecessary risk, in my
right.
opinion.
Yeah.
Uh you said you've been kind of out of the game, you know, as far as full-time cowhand for like 7 years. What's outside of just being around the guys, what's the part you miss the most?
Oh man, I like getting up there. I mean, this may sound stupid, but just getting out there before daylight and watching the sun come up, on horseback,
Yeah,
riding riding through them pairs, checking on the babies.
yeah,
I miss that.
yeah. I hate getting up early when I don't have to, but I do like watching the sunrise. You know, I'm not one that's gonna sleep till noon every day, but
Right.
on my days off, I'm not gonna wake up at 4:30 if I don't absolutely have to. And then on my days that I do work, I'm not gonna wake up at 7 or at 4:30 if I don't have to. Um, but there is just some, like you said, there's something about riding out at sun up, and it's one of the annoyances of this particular feedlot, and it's nothing that, nothing that really can be done. But I the way we feed stuff, your best, like your best option is to, especially on these Holstein heifers, is catch them like right, like 5 minutes after they've been the feed truck's been through. So a lot of times we're waiting and the sun's up, been up for 45 minutes by the time we finally ride out. But there's still something about just seeing that sun peek up over the
There is.
horizon.
There
It's
is.
just yeah, it's nice. I don't know, it's funny, you can ask any cowhand ever about what their favorite part of being a cowhand, or any old retired or crippled or whatever, cowhand that used to be in it, and ask what they miss the most, and there's not a single one of them that'll say the pay. Not a damn one that'll say they miss the pay. It's always something else.
If you're in it for the pay, boy,
Boy,
you
you
get
must
head
be coming
examined.
from a different you must be coming from a different country where cost of living, the standard of living's a little different than here, because
Yeah.
there ain't an American or even a Mexican cowhand, for that matter, that I've ever met that said, the pay was their favorite part of it.
No.
Not a damn one of them.
No.
But it's
And you-
there there's just something, whether it be you got to go blow to one and just, and get ready for the fight once that rope comes tight. That's always a fun time, but there's also that sense of, accomplishment when you're walking through, a bunch of pairs, and you see a bunch of babies just bucking around, being retarded little shits, and just
right.
like, yep, there's something cool about that too. Just
There is.
not
You know,
not even having to worry about shaking a loop out, just sitting back and watching, and you're just like, yep, done
oh,
good on these ones.
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love blowing 2-1 and just jerking a knot in its ass.
Yeah,
But there is, riding through there. It's a cool morning, watching them calves throw a number 9 over their back and just run and fart and buck and
yep,
play. And it's quiet, boy,
yep.
it's nice. It's nice. I miss that.
Yeah, that's one of the nicest things about, and there's not many nice things about night cabin, but
Oh
it's
no,
just the sheer silence. I mean,
yeah.
creepy how silent it is, but it's peaceful at the same time. Like, and you better be at peace with your own thoughts, or you'll go nuts night cabin.
Yeah, you can get a lot of philosophizing done.
Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah, it's if you're not, and I can't imagine back before, because I've always had some sort of technology, whether it been a radio or a four-wheeler, since I've been around it. But like imagining, back in those just like those old line camp days when all you had was just a lantern, like not even a flashlight. You didn't
Yeah,
have
just
alkaline
old
batteries at the
lantern.
time. Yeah, and like you are just like you can't even read a book at that point. You're alone with your thoughts. Man, like that's you better be at peace with your own thoughts, or you'll go nuts real quick.
Well, on the other hand, maybe that's what the hell's wrong with society these days. We don't get into our own thoughts enough and become,
Maybe
you know,
it might be. It might be, because there's few days where I'll go to work and I'll put in a full days of work without like having something in my ear all the time.
right,
And I it varies from I mean, like I was listening to what's his name, Solzhenitsyn, the Gulag Archipelago the other day, some like really deep, um profound, dark type of, factual stuff. Or I can go to Drinking Bros and the Legion of Skanks and just hear dick
right.
jokes, for an hour. But I've always got something in, and then there's times where I'll just go back and listen to some of the episodes that I've done with, that I remember something, and I'll go back to that episode, or want to hear another. I was telling somebody about a story that Boots had told me, and so I'll go back to and listen to that. But there's just not many days where I'm alone with my own thoughts. There's always something there, and
Right.
that I think you may be right. There's times where you just got to shut everything down and just you know not even worry about putting music on in the background. Just
Right. And I'm guilty of that too. There's there's not a minute goes by, it seems like, that I'm not listening to a podcast or music or the TV's blaring or
mhm,
something.
right,
And
some
I
sort of background noise. And
yeah,
and maybe that's what drives people crazy anymore, is just like they never come face to face with their own thoughts. I don't know. That's me
right.
speculating, but
Yeah. And
there's. Oh, go
and
ahead.
back then, they had, like you said, those coal lanterns and stuff, but shoot, they step outside and it's total darkness, no light pollution or anything, and be able to see the stars
Yep.
like that. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty good life in a way.
It really does, and don't get me wrong. There's plenty of advantages to technology and how far we've come, and you know it is really nice not having to just run in a bunch of wild horses and 4-foot them
Oh
and
yeah,
and scotch up a leg and then just get on them. Like that's how it's used to just be done.
yeah.
And we don't have to do that so much anymore. And that's nice.
Well, there's too many good ones to be riding a dink these days.
Right. Exactly. But there's also a lot of value to knowing how to do all that too. And that's one of the cool things about the cowboy culture, is like, even though it has evolved and progressed over the decades and the centuries, there's still that basic element where you got to know how to train a horse. You got to know how to handle a rope.
You bet.
and you got to know how to be able to outthink a cow, and that's
Right.
basically what you got to do. And
Yeah.
Even with all that technology, that cow can outsmart you, at least 50% of the time. If that
Yeah.
cow really wants to, she can get by you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As dumb as they are, like you said in your other podcast, as dumb as they are, they can be pretty crafty and clever at times.
Oh yeah. No, horse ain't any different either. They I was telling somebody that they were showing rubbing up on a horse out in the middle of a pen and whatnot, and so yeah, he ain't caught though. He's humoring you until you
Right.
put that halter on him, then he's caught.
Yeah.
But up until then, you can rub on him all you want until he decides he don't want it anymore, and then he'll just walk away, and there ain't much you can do about it. And so it's just there's yeah, at the end of the day, we're dealing with a bunch of dumb animals, and when they decide they don't want to work, you got to get craftier than they are.
I'm not saying I'm a horse hand or anything, but my grandpa, he's an old cowboy and he's a horse trader. So, he drag stuff home off the killer line at the horse sale, or, he may see something that had some shape out there in the pasture and he just whip in there and buy it, And,
Yeah.
Me and my brother, we were nothing but his crash test dummies. So we got to ride about anything there was to ride. And Grandpa was pretty old school. He knew how to deal with some of those bad ones. And, as much as I like the way they, you can handle them quiet, they teach how to handle them quiet these days. There are some of those outlaws that you just got to kind of take the old 2x4 method to, and lay them down, throw a tarp over them and just beat the piss out of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's times where like
it's cold, hard
ask,
facts, but it's the truth.
You ask, you ask nicely, you ask a little less nicely, and then you tell them, and then it's just like, all right, listen here, motherfucker, this is what we're doing. And there's no other option to it. And you don't ever want to come for that moment. And I don't mind going through a fight, but I'm not a fighter like that. I just soon talk them out of it and let's work together, because it just, after a while, it gets old, and I don't ride near as well as Dan Hartman. So it's just like, let's get you out of that mindset and let's go to working. But then there's other times where it's just like, all right, enough's enough. This is what we're doing, and I don't care what you have to say about it. I don't care what your thoughts are. This is what we're doing. And some of those methods can get pretty, they look a lot more brutal than they really are.
They are, because if you've ever watched a bunch of horses out there together, they'll bite and kick the shit out of each other. Do you think there's anything you can do that's going to be any worse than a full-grown 1,200-pound horse kicking another one in the belly? No.
Right. You can watch a mare just whoop up on a stud until they decide that they need a little loving. And then that old stud will just rape the shit out of them. And like there is nothing romantical about any of it. And you just look like there's nothing I can do outside of some serious torture devices that's gonna hurt this horse any more than that mare whooping up on a stud, or a stud finally getting it in.
Right.
There's nothing I can do as a 180-pound man that's gonna top that. So I don't feel as bad, but there's a lot of people that don't realize that well, you don't realize the size difference till you get up next to them, and you don't ever really feel or realize the power difference until you get on the other end of one, whether it be in the saddle or just on the end of a lead rope, when they decide to get after it. Like, there ain't much you can do that's gonna, you gotta use, like I said, you get crafty real quick trying to stop that.
You know, and those bleeding hearts that think about all that, it's because they ain't never been around any bad ones, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't know. People need to kind of just mind their own damn business, think, if they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, you're sounding awful libertarian now. I mean, we know libertarians not good for reach on social media. They kind of shut that down a little bit. So we'll but yeah, 100% right. Say, what do we sign off on the regular deal, and we'll I gotta go pee real quick, and we'll come back and talk a little conspiracies since we were on it.
Sounds good to me, buddy.
We'll do a little Patreon only segment of some conspiracies. I don't even know which one yet. We'll figure it out.
All right.
But hey, sign us off for the main bunch if you would.
Move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Woo!